Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be talking about vector operations. So, quick little do now, find the component form and magnitude for P and Q. So, as we talked about yesterday, PQ, that's the form, that's how you write a vector. And so, like we said, this is just x2 minus x1, comma, y2 minus y1. And we have all those values over here. So this ends up being, with the symbol, negative 1.5 minus, okay, minus negative 2.5, comma, and then y2 would be negative 3.5 minus negative 0.5. I put these in parentheses to make it easier to see. And so then we combine like terms. So this would be negative 1.5 plus 2.5, comma, negative 3.5 plus 0.5. So now we add it all up. So negative 1.5 plus 2.5, that is just 1, comma, negative 3.5 plus 0.5 gives us negative 3. So there is the component form. Okay, now to get magnitude, so PQ, don't forget double bar both sides, make them a little bit taller so you can clearly see what's what. Square root, remember this is A, this is B, so square root of A squared plus B squared. Square root of 1 squared plus negative, oops, wrote the B by mistake, negative 3 squared. That just equals the square root of 1 plus 9, which is the square root of 10. And there we go, there's our magnitude. So, just a quick little reminder, the magnitude of a vector, so I'm reading this, magnitude of a vector gives the length of the line segment. The magnitude of a vector, so the vector v, is usually written as that, okay? So, now we know how to do this, we've already done it before. Now, let's say we want to add a vector or multiply by a scalar. So there are two different methods to draw the resultant vector, u plus v. So either you just take the first vector, this vector, and then you just draw a straight line from the beginning to the end, kind of like what I did there. Or you can draw a parallelogram. So uv is, if you just kind of match, I'll do it in green right here. If you just match this and this, these two are exactly the same. And then these two are exactly the same. Okay, so something you could do is just what I'm about to do. Obviously, you could use a ruler for this. But what you can do is if you draw a perfectly straight line here, and then you just kind of move it over, it should land perfectly right there and form a like the parallelogram. Okay, that's a fancy way to say everything in this box. Okay, so now for vectors u and v and the scalar k, that k is very important, the following operations are defined. So if you multiply, let's say u times k, so multiply k times u, then k is just going to do distributive property to both u's inside. All right. If you're going to add two vectors, so I'll do this in blue, if you're going to add u and v, then you're really just adding u1 v1 and u2 v2. If you multiply the front times the negative, so I'll do this one in red. If you multiply the front times the negative, then you just make its insides the opposite. And then finally, if you subtract, you're just subtracting. So let's give a first example right here. All right, they want u to be negative 12 comma 3 and v to be 4 comma 12 and w to be 8 comma 16 for the following operations. So here they're saying 1/4 w minus 2v. So all we got to do is write 1/4 times, and then let's write w. So that's 8 comma 16 minus 2 times, let's write v, 4 comma negative 12. All right. Now, like we talked about before, and I'll do it in red, this 1/4 does a distributive property. It's all the same math you already know how to do. So, and the negative 2 does a distributive property. So this would become, let's see, 1/4 times 8, that would be 2, comma, and then 1/4 times 16, 4. Now, the only difference, this is very important, the only difference is when you distribute this negative in there, this becomes a positive because you're adding vectors. So this would be negative 8, comma, positive 24. Okay. You know, I recommend you draw the brackets a little bit darker That way you can clearly see what's what. All right, now when adding a vector, you're just going to add the two things I'm highlighting in green. So this plus this, and then blue plus blue. Right? It's not rocket science. You can do this. So then we go, I'll draw my vector. So 2 minus 8, so the two greens, 2 minus 8, and then the two blues, 4 plus 24. So this would be negative 6, comma, 28. And there's our answer. This is 1/4 W minus 2V. Now, if they want us to get the magnitude, well, again, this is A, this is B, so the answer would be the square root of A squared plus B squared. So this would be the square root of negative 6 squared plus 28 squared. This would become the square root of 36 plus, now if you have a calculator, 28 times 28 is 784. And so after adding this up, your final answer would be the square root of 820. Okay, and that's it. Okay, that's as complicated as it gets. You already know how to do this math. You just have to get used to doing it with vectors. Okay, so that's the end of the video. Get ready for UT Quest the following day. Have a wonderful evening.